seems that the ones that are run by the radical left Democrats, what they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone. And I get a call from the liberal governor, "Sir, please don't come in. We don't need you." I said, well, unless they're playing false tapes, this looked like World War II. Your place is burning down. I mean, you must be kidding. "Sir, we have it under control." I said, "You don't have it under control, Governor, but I'll check it, and I'll call you back." I called her back. I said, this place is a nightmare.
Okay, so I'm going to go through everything that he just said. I'm going to debunk it all. But I want to start with the historical connotations of the phrase "the enemy within" and talk about why it's not only dangerous, but why every single American should be concerned and be up in arms over it. And during his rise to power, oh wait, that's Alex Jones. Geez, it really is getting harder and harder to tell Nazis apart. There, that's better. When Adolf Hitler started his rise to power, he blamed the enemy within for Germany's loss in World War I. And when he said enemy within, he was specifically talking about communists and the Jewish people of Germany at the time. Now, it's already been made clear that Donald Trump has read Mein Kampf and enjoyed it, so we have to assume that his use of the words are deliberate. Now, why should that be concerning? Well, consider where he made that speech. He's talking to the highest-ranking officials of the military, and he is threatening to weaponize the military against U.S. citizens. I don't care what side of the political aisle you are on, this should concern you, because when will he turn it on you? Now, during that speech, he gives a list of Democratic cities that he says are out of control and are like war zones. And then he goes on to say that he needs to mobilize the military in those cities to restore order. Let's talk about what those cities look like for gun homicides. And we'll compare it to cities in red states that he is not sending the military to. And we'll see who's actually doing better. Those blue states that he wants to mobilize the military against, or the red states that he is, not doing anything to. Now, as a reminder, the cities that he says are out of control and war zones and total disasters are New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, and Portland, Oregon. And we're going to look at these rates using 2024 data. So let's examine those cities in order from worst to best just to see where they rate on gun homicides. Starting with Chicago. Chicago has a gun homicide rate of 14.9 per 100,000. Next up is that war zone named Portland. Their gun homicide rate is roughly half of Chicago's at 8.2 per 100,000. And as we move over into Los Angeles, California, we're going to cut that rate roughly in half again. Los Angeles has a gun homicide rate of 4.7 per 100,000. Next up is San Francisco. And you guessed it, we're going to cut that rate in half again. San Francisco has a gun homicide rate of 2.8 per 100,000. The final city that Trump called out was the city, New York, New York, and its gun homicide rate is the lowest so far at 2 per 100,000. So those are the cities that Trump called out. Remember, the best was New York City at 2 per 100,000. The worst was Chicago at 14.9 per 100,000. Let's look at some cities in red states. Starting off strong is Birmingham, Alabama, whose gun homicide rate in 2024 was 3 times that of Chicago's, with 51.5 per 100,000. Next up is St. Louis, Missouri, which in 2024 had a gun homicide rate of 47.5 per 100,000. Then there's the tiny town of Shreveport, Louisiana, with 176,000 people, and it has a gun homicide rate of 22 per 100,000. But what about J.D. Vance's hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio? Well, it has a gun homicide rate of 18.8 per 100,000, which means that it is significantly worse than Chicago, Illinois, and all the other states that Trump and Vance called out, so why isn't the military going there? Then there's Indianapolis, Indiana, which has a gun homicide rate of 16.7 per 100,000. Over in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, they have a gun homicide rate of 15.7 per 100,000, meaning that this city of 114,000 people is worse than Chicago. Now let's talk about Houston, Texas, which has a gun homicide rate of 11.7 per 100,000. And while this is better than Chicago, it's significantly worse than all the other cities Trump called out, being 5 to 6 times worse than New York City. But Dr. Dowd-Arrow, I noticed you didn't include Florida in any of that. Well, let's look at Florida, shall we? Tallahassee, Florida has a gun homicide rate of 8.9 per 100,000, meaning it's better than Chicago, but it's much worse than every other city Trump called out. And then there's Palm Beach County, where we'll find Mar-a-Lago. It has a gun homicide rate of 4.5 per 100,000. This means the gun homicide rate in Palm Beach County, where Trump resides, is nearly double what San Francisco's gun homicide rate is, and over double New York City's. So it sounds like the war zones are actually found in the red states. So when we see politicians like Donald Trump attacking blue cities and blue states, what he's actually doing is using racist dog whistles to signal who he wants to go after. And that's why he's moved the National Guard into cities that are predominantly racial minorities. Anytime that a leader within a country says that there are enemies within and that he hates more than half the population, you should be concerned, because that's the road to authoritarianism. Not to mention the fact that we had Elon's Nazi salute, we had the attack on education and the free press, as well as Stephen Miller eulogizing Charlie Kirk using a plagiarized eulogy that Joseph Goebbels gave to Hearst Wessel. So yeah, we should all be concerned, and we should all be acting.